Nice and fast. Hey drummers, how's it going? It's Alex once again, bringing you some more fun-free drumming ideas. For this week's lesson, I've got a nice little 4-measure sequence which is aimed at what I like to call sort of advanced beginners. So you're starting to bridge that gap between a beginner and an intermediate. The focus of the groove and the feel is going to be trying to separate your right hand and your right foot, so we create that nice little bit of independence with your kick drum. So, if you like what you saw in the intro and you want to give this one a crack, stick around and I'll break it down. Here we go. Alright, so we're going to kick things off by learning the first 2 measures of the groove. The right hand is simply playing quarter notes throughout, okay? So when it comes to playing 2 eighth notes back to back, whether it's bass or snare bass or just the hi-hat on its own followed by the kick on its own, you're going to get these moments where you've got to play the bass drum in between the hi-hat, so independent from that right hand, which can prove a little bit tricky at first. So if we have a look at the first measure, this is really simple. We've got bass drum and hi-hat, snare drum and hi-hat. Now we get to this sort of bass, but we're going to play a hi-hat with just the first bass drum. Bass. And what I would practice, because it's really tempting, when you first start playing this, you might find yourself just instinctively doing 2 right hands with your kicks. So what you want to try and do, just sort of exaggerate that arc in which you bring your right hand up and plonk the bass drum when you get to the tip of that arc. So you get this bass, snare, bass, snare. Okay, and eventually, it will start feeling a bit more natural playing that bass drum on its own. Once you've done the 2 bass drums, you're just going to follow up with the snare drum and a hi-hat. So you get bass, snare, bass, snare. Just loop that around if you want. Alright, that's the first measure. The second measure is a little bit more full on, okay? So if I go through sort of each beat one by one, for beat 1 we've got 1 and, okay? So it's together with the kick, and then the kick on its own. And then we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to hit the snare drum with the hi-hat. So snare, kick, so that ends up as 2 and. Then when we get to beat 3, we're just going to play the hi-hat on its own, 3 and. So we hit the bass drum on the and of beat 3, and then for beat 4, snare drum and hi-hat together. So if we go through measure 2, we get bass, snare, bass, tick, bass, snare. Okay, like I said earlier, the most important thing to try and avoid is going bass, snare, bass, tick, bass, snare. Because we're trying to play quarter notes with a hi-hat and separate that hi-hat from the bass drum. So one more time. Bass, snare, bass, tick, bass, snare. Alright, and if you plonk bars 1 and 2 together, you're going to get 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And again, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Moving on to measure 3, all we've got is bass, snare, tick, bass, snare. Okay, so we've got bass drum and hi-hat, snare drum and hi-hat, tick on its own, bass on its own, and then the snare drum and the hi-hat together. So boom, snare, tick, boom, snare. Alright, so what I'll do now, I'll just play measures 1, 2 and 3 back to back. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, then 1, 2, 3 and 4, and now we're nicely poised to go into that drum fill. And again, we're going to be playing a kick drum within this sort of 16th note pattern. What we've got is right, right, kick, left. So we're playing this little group of 5, which is going to be right on the snare, left up on the high tom, right on the floor tom. Then we're going to put a kick, and then we're going to slap the snare drum with our left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, it's going to feel a little bit weird at first. I'm going to play these back to back. The rhythm of the fill is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that leaves us with 1 beat left, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. In fact, I think we'll chuck that around the kick so it'll sound nice. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, crash. If I'm counting it, it's 1 E and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 E and a. Okay, so it sort of plays across the beat a tiny bit. So up until now, you may have just been sort of like playing like 4 groups for every beat, or sorry, 4 notes every beat, or sort of breaking up. You can still feel the definite pulse going throughout. This overlaps it a bit, so it makes it sound a bit more interesting. Let's speed it up a tiny bit. Bit quicker. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play measure 3 into the fill. So it's always good when you're practicing a drum fill, always practice just putting at least a bar of groove before and after it, so you get that transition down going into it and then coming out of it. So bar 3, 1, 2, 3 So far we've got 3 bars of groove and then 1 bar of fill. Let's put it all together. So, from bar 1, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, then 1, 2, 3 and 4, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and 4 and a. Alright, so when you've got all those parts down, what I'd suggest to practice them is just doing measures 1 and 2 together, get nice and solid with that, and then practice measures 3 and 4 together, and then combine them and play them as a continuous sequence, and then loop that round and round, and then sort of increase the tempo as you go. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. So I'll shut up, we'll pop up there, and we'll smash it out at a few different speeds. So here we go. It's nice and slow first of all. Bit quicker. Fast. Alright drummers, so there it is. I hope you enjoyed that lesson. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to pop over to onlinedrummer.com. You can go and grab the sheet music completely for free. If you check the links below, you'll find a link to my Patreon page. So if you want to come and support that channel, that'd be a massive help. If you also check down there, you'll find links to Facebook and Twitter as well if you want to come and say hello. Also, if you look down here about now, you should see last week's lesson and another lesson that's suited to you. And don't forget to click this little icon up here to subscribe to the channel. So until next time, take care, keep drumming, and I'll see you next Thursday for some more fun-free drumming ideas. All right, see you later.